The trust fund for Medicare is going bust in 2027. That means that huge stockpiles of surplus Medicare taxes that have been building over the years will be completely depleted. And that means that it will somehow have to pay its bills through incoming taxes alone. And if those revenues aren't enough to foot the bill, and voters aren't willing to stand for reduced benefits, then the federal government will have to raise taxes, and dramatically so. Well, how do we get to this crisis point in the history of our country? Political commentator Dinesh D'Souza has a pretty good analogy to explain the huge failure of our current healthcare system. Let's take a listen.
The problem of healthcare can be summarized in this way. The guy who receives the service is not only not paying for it, but he has no idea what it costs. It never occurs to him or her to ask what it costs. And this crucial fact is known by every provider of healthcare who recognizes that a third man, not present here, is paying for it. And it's going to be very easy to screw that guy because he's not here. And so we will be sending him a bill, which could be as gargantuan as we like, because the guy getting the service is never going to show the slightest interest in the social cost being borne by that third guy. Let's call him the taxpayer. So it's a rip-off scheme, engineered ultimately, and everything would work like healthcare if we allowed it to. You said healthcare is a right. Well, I would say eating is a right. I have a right to eat. I shouldn't starve. I live in a prosperous country. So let's say I were to tell you, all right, you have a right to food. When you go to Vaughn's to fill your cart, just take what you think you need and go to the counter, and then they'll just check you out. And so you look at the milk, and milk was, normally it's $2.50, and you buy 2 cartons. You say, I'll buy 10 because I'm not paying. So you fill up your cart. You show up at the counter. Now, here's the important point. Your behavior is completely understandable. You're taking as much as you can. The guy behind the counter, by which I mean the management, they realize that the guy in the line is not paying. So they realize milk doesn't have to cost $2.50. It could cost $25. Why? Because that guy's not going to ask, and he's not going to care. And so, as long as we get to shaft some third guy who's going to be paying for it, we're going to jack up the prices. And what I'm trying to say is that that's in all the areas where we want entitlements, that's the scam that we've been subjected to. Colleges.
Folks, I think Dinesh D'Souza makes a pretty good point in this clip. After all, it's not like there isn't enough money coming in to give us the type of health care that we need. It comes down to what our providers are charging us for what we're actually getting. As it turns out, we're spending a lot more than other developed countries with much poorer outcomes. According to the Commonwealth Fund, quote, health spending per person in the U.S. was nearly 2 times higher than in the closest country, Germany, and 4 times higher than in South Korea. Despite high U.S. spending, Americans experience worse health care outcomes than their peers around the world. For example, life expectancy at birth in the U.S. was 77 years in 2020, 3 years lower than other developed countries. Provisional data shows life expectancy in the U.S. dropped even further in 2021, close quote. So why do we experience inferior care at nearly twice the rate as other developed countries? I think Dinesh D'Souza hit the nail on the head. The person who is receiving the health care doesn't care how much it costs, and so the person dispensing the care is incented to charge as much as they possibly can. And so long as the hapless third-party taxpayer is willing to foot the bill, then these prices will continue to spiral out of control. All this may explain an incident that happened with my son not too long ago. He had an allergic reaction to some nuts and had to rush to the hospital. While he was there, he spent 4 hours in a hospital room where he had to inject himself, not the nurse, mind you, with an EpiPen. For having spent those 4 hours in that hospital room, he was later stuck with a $28,000 medical bill. Unfortunately, our country doesn't appear to be on its way to finding a solution anytime soon. Over the next 10 years, they'll borrow huge sums of money to pay for the massive shortfalls for Medicare. And at some point, we'll have to pay that debt off, or the cost of servicing that debt will consume the entire federal budget. That's why a huge swath of experts are predicting that taxes will likely have to rise in the next 10 years to pay for these unfunded obligations. Some experts have even predicted that tax rates have to double to keep our country solvent. Why do I bring all this up on a channel that focuses primarily on retirement savings? Because if you're like most Americans and you have the lion's share of your investments squirreled away in tax-deferred accounts like 401ks and IRAs, you've essentially gone into a business partnership with the IRS. And at some point in the next 10 years, they're going to vote to increase their share on your retirement plan to be able to pay for Medicare. Not a very good business partnership, if you ask me. And all this means that you'll have much less spendable after-tax cash flow in retirement. So here's what I might recommend. Why not take advantage of tax rates while they're historically low to get your retirement savings shifted to tax-free accounts like Roth IRAs? If you can get all the heavy lifting done by 2030 or so, you can put yourself at or near the 0% tax bracket in retirement. Why is the 0% tax bracket so powerful? Because if tax rates double, 2 times 0 is still 0. If you would like some help implementing a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement that shields you from the impact of higher taxes, head on over to davidmcknight.com and click on the Connect with an Advisor button. I'm happy to refer you to an advisor in the Power Zero network that has been trained, vetted, and qualified personally by me. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified Power Zero advisor, head over to powerzero.com and opt into my free video series. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I respond to every single one of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.